So today I'm going to let you in on how you can radically improve your sales skills with or without sales calls. Although the fastest way to improve your sales skills might be to have sales calls, there are still numerous ways to enhance your ability to sell without them. Okay, one of these ways could be watching old sales calls and taking notes. Going back and watching old sales calls is like doing post-game analysis. Whether it's your own calls or someone else's, this is where you can pick up on what worked and what didn't. Here's what you should pay close attention to. The intro / small talk. Small talk. This part sets the stage. How well are you building rapport and getting the prospect comfortable? Did you smooth the transition from a chit-chat to the business part of the call? Small talk should feel like a natural lead-in, not a forced obligation. And I told you in the video earlier that I would much rather you just jump straight to the point because it's natural. But if you have natural small talk, that's also good. I want to emphasize that small talk isn't necessarily bad, but if you force small talk, then it's bad. Okay, so make sure you be your authentic self. Don't try to force small talk just for them to like you. That's the worst thing that you can do. But you could focus on the intro. When you watch all sales calls, you could focus on the discovery. This is where you uncover the prospect's needs. If you're getting a lot of "I need to think about it" objections at the end, it's a sign that you might not be addressing enough in discovery. The more you uncover up front, the fewer objections you'll have later. If you are hearing those same objections repeatedly, it means you may need to slow down and dig deeper into their pain points and goals early on. Okay, and this is actually really crucial. If you're getting a lot of "I need to think about it" objections, there are probably some things that you're doing wrong in the discovery. Either A, there's a lot of concerns that you haven't addressed early on, or B, you've made their guard come up and made them think that they can't trust you with their real concerns. So instead of telling you what they are actually concerned about, they just tell you, "I need to think about it." The pitch, ask yourself, is the prospect actually engaged, or am I just talking because it feels good to deliver my pitch? The pitch should be concise and speak directly to what you learned in the discovery phase. If you're rambling or giving a one-size-fits-all pitch, you'll lose their interest. Okay, so make sure to tailor your pitch to what they've told you in discovery. But these are some of the things you could look at in the whole call. Also, general vibe. How is the vibe between you and the prospect? Sales happen in conversation. So are you actually having a conversation where you're just the curious one, or are you just sitting and asking questions all right next? Watching these old calls allows you to see patterns and make small adjustments that can have a big impact on your closing rate. Mock calls and role-playing. Mock calls or role-playing are amazing for practicing in a low-pressure environment. Whether you're new to sales or you've been in the game for a while, practicing different scenarios is the key to getting better without risking a real sale. Here's what to focus on in mock calls. So mock calls is basically just you role-playing a sales call with another guy. So it's role-play sales. There isn't anything that's going to be sold, but you're going to act like you're selling, right? Focus on discovery, introduction, objection handling, and pitch. In discovery, practice open-ended questions that help the prospect open up. You want to get comfortable with the flow of discovery and how to dig deeper when needed. So this is called probing. When you sense that there is something, that there's a pain point on a certain subject. It could be, "I feel like that the way we book meetings now isn't truly effective." And they just leave the statement at that. You could ask, "Why do you think that?" Or "Why do you think that?" Or "What's the reason that you believe that it isn't truly effective?" You want to probe these statements and make sure that you understand what's beneath that statement. Why don't they think that it's effective? And then you find the real problem, you could say. So that's called probing. You also want to practice that. The introduction. Work on nailing your introduction so you're building rapport right out of the gate. Experiment with different ways to start the conversation and see what feels most natural. This is also something that I recommend that you play with. Objection handling. I want you to test out different ways to handle common objections. This is your chance to try out various responses and figure out what resonates the most. And then the pitch. Practice delivering a pitch that's sharp, relevant, and directly tied to the prospect's needs. The more you practice, the easier it gets. It will be to adjust your pitch based on what the prospect is telling you. So mock calls, they're basically like reps at the gym. The more you do them, the more automatic your responses will become. And that's when your confidence really starts to shine. So preparing objection handling frames is also something that I truly recommend. So objections are just part of the game, but being prepared for them can make all the difference. By creating objection handling frames, you'll be able to address the most common concerns without breaking a sweat. These frames are go-to responses that keep the conversation moving in the right direction. Here's how to prep. Alright, so number one is list common objections. Think about the top objections you get, stuff like I need to think about it or this is too expensive. Create a response for each one. Your response should acknowledge the objection, show empathy, and then bring the conversation back to the value you are offering. For example, if someone says, I need to think about it, you might respond with, I totally get that, it's a big decision and you want to be sure. But let's look at it from a different angle. If you had more qualified leads coming in next month, how would that impact your revenue? And then I would delete this, because then you're telling the prospect what to do. And what we learned is that when the prospect tells us what they need to do, that's way more powerful. If you had more qualified leads coming in the next month, how would that impact your revenue? You could just ask that. Well, that would increase revenue significantly. And how would you feel about that? Well, that's what I've always wanted. So you see, then you've directed the conversation back on the value that you're bringing. But you need to practice these frames, alright? The more you practice these responses, the more natural they feel. And when you're live on a sales call, you'll be ready for anything the prospect throws at you. Objection frames help you stay calm and confident even when the prospect hesitates. Watching the top 1% salesmen sell, that's also one I truly recommend. So if you want to be great at something, learn from the best. Watching the top 1% of salespeople in action is like getting a free masterclass. For appointment setting agency owners, it's all about studying how these pros handle conversations, build trust, and close deals. Who to watch? Matthew Ryder. Ryder is a master at creating instant rapport with the prospects. Pay attention to how he uses emotion and logic together to guide the conversation. His ability to stay calm under pressure is something every salesperson should study. And then there's Jeremy Miner. The guy who created NEPQ, Jeremy Miner, is brilliant at asking the right questions that get the prospect to sell themselves. Watch how he controls the conversation without being pushy. He's all about using questions to get the prospect to realize that they need what he's offering. So extremely powerful way to sell. What to focus on? Body language and tone. Mostly tone, because rarely you see these guys with body language. But it's not just what they say, but how they say it. Top salespeople knows how to match the prospect's energy, use the right tone, and also adjust their body language to build trust. How they handle objections. Watch how smoothly they handle objections. They don't get flustered, they just listen, acknowledge, and redirect the conversation back to the value they're offering. Their closing technique. Notice how they never seem desperate to close. They guide the conversation in a way that makes the sale feel like the natural next step. Their ability to create urgency without pressure is what makes them stand out. Learning from top closers can teach you those subtle techniques that turn good salespeople into great ones. So that's what I would recommend you doing a lot of mock calls, watching your old sales calls, and then also learning from Jeremy Miner and Matthew Ryder. That's it. Hope you've enjoyed. You can always shoot me a message if you need help with anything. Ciao.